to answer it in a very short way, in a philosophical way though. But to get deep into it, if you ask me the specifics, right now what I'm doing is, number one, I'm an entrepreneur. I really believe in entrepreneurship, business, and I think that's the way to take any place forward. So I really believe in entrepreneurship, and that's what I do. I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship. Second big thing that I do right now is content creation. So I'm doing a lot of content and communication on mindset and on business on my social media channels. This is something I do out of my heart. So in my free time, I do that stuff. So right now, if you ask me, main two things: entrepreneurship and content creation. That's what I'm up to.
That's amazing. And like I said, I've been watching your videos, and you have this little thing called Monday mornings. So I've watched the recent couple of episodes, and tell us more about that, and tell us more about your business in general.
So the Monday morning message is an idea that came to me, one of those shower ideas when you're showering and that idea comes to you. So I thought, why not every Monday morning have a message for the week for people who are watching. I feel Monday morning, everybody has Monday morning blues. And to counteract that, I decided to have a Monday morning message at 9 a.m. India time. And what I do is not only create a message, but we set a theme. I deliver a message on it, and we have somebody else tune in for most of the episodes. So either to come and entertain us, either to come teach us how to draw, do art, to teach us something. I had a chef who came us and taught us how to cook a great Monday morning breakfast. So just an innovative way to deliver a message at the same time, something that people can take away, whether it's entertainment or, a skill. So that was the idea of Monday morning message, and it's going so far very well, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
I think it's also very powerful because usually Monday is the day that many countries start their work, and having that kind of good motivation in the morning and beginning of the week, let's say, is very good because it gives you some reflection time throughout the week to be able to achieve something or maybe progress in something you've been delaying so I think that's really powerful, and good job on that. Good job on building a good brand. Guys, Naren has a YouTube channel as well. He's been uploading videos for almost 2 years now on Snapchat. Again, guys, just use the command _guest. You will get all his contacts. So Naren, tell us more about you're literally the expert of communication. In terms of your own opinion, do you believe that you are an expert yourself? And what are the techniques you've been using throughout the years to be able to expand your knowledge in communication and teach others about it?
That's a great question, BB. So the first thing that I tell all people when they come see my channel and periodically spread this out, that I'm not an expert. See, I truly think we're living in the age of internet experts. Everybody's calling themselves an expert, but you truly never are an expert unless other people call you an expert or you put in hours and years. So I never call myself an expert communicator. I say I'm an expert student of communication, which means that I'm really passionate about it. And what I learn, I wish to share. And so I call myself an expert student. That's the mindset I approach it with. The reason being, I think if you don't have the student mindset towards anything, the moment you think you're done and you're above this and you're an expert, that's the day you stop growing. And that's the day your passion becomes your poison. So that's one thing I'm very conscious about, not thinking that I'm an expert. I'm an expert student. That means I put my energy towards the student part and have the perpetual student attitude. That answers the first part of the question. And the second part you asked, BB, what exactly did you want me to expand on?
What are some techniques that you've been using in the communication so far with people in general?
To improve myself and what techniques I've been using. So number one thing I say is, yes, people always ask me, hey, teach me 2-minute hack on how I can communicate better, how I can do it better, etc., etc. Yes, there is a structure to it. Yes, there are hacks, there are modules that you can use to enhance your communication. But ultimately, communication is not a spectator sport. It's a doer sport. You can teach somebody swimming for 2 years with Michael Phelps giving lectures, but if they don't get in the pool, they're going to drown the first time they get in, even though they know it for 2 years. So there can be many techniques, but the best technique that trumps everything else is going and doing it, practicing it, facing the things that you want to get better at, because you learn on the trade. You learn in the trade and you learn in the swimming pool.
A follow-up question is, some people fear communication, or some people are, let's say, introverts, right, in their own bubble and stuff.
Yes.
how would you encourage them to go out there and practice? Because again, so, like me personally, I have some things that I don't like to go and do. It's a place where I'm going out of my comfort bubble, and for many people out there, it's communication, especially if it's to a public crowd or to a huge number of people. What are some techniques also that you can encourage us to be able to go out there, speak to the people, speak what's in our hearts as well, not just fake stuff that are like written down or memorized by others? What are the techniques that you can do?
So I'm going to answer this question in two parts. The first thing that you mentioned interestingly is introverts. Most people think that introvert and shyness are the same thing. They're two very different things. So let's understand first what's introvert and extrovert. See, for me, and if you go and dig deeper into this, introvert and extrovert is more about energy. So they define on a scale, if you are energized with people around you, if you are energized with external interactions, that's extrovert. You see some people go out, talk to people, and they feel more energy. Mm-hmm. Introverts feel drained when they go in a public setting. They feel like their energy is down. You know, introverts are people who love to read their books by themselves for a long duration. So that's the difference between introvert and extrovert. So it's more about energy and how it makes you feel. It has nothing to do with shyness. So we have some introverts, people who are introverts, who are fantastic public speakers. Shyness is about fearing communication, like you said, in public, or fearing talking to people. So let's separate these two, and most people get this mixed. So you can be an introvert and a great communicator, great speaker. You can be an extrovert and still fear public communication, because they are two different things.
That's actually an interesting way to look at it. Sorry to interrupt you, but like being an introvert, like imagine, so like I go out there, I speak to people, and then I get drained from speaking to people. That's actually it's a very interesting way to think about it. But yeah, thank you for that clarification. That was very insightful.
Correct. So introvert, extrovert is one scale, and then fearing communication and not fearing is another thing. You see, most of us fear communication because we have two fears. Two R's, I call it. The fear of reputation. What will people say about me? The ego being crushed, fear of reputation, and fear of rejection. We hate to hear no. We hate to hear no. These are the two fears. So, you know, we were always taught since we were a child that getting famous is bad. And you must be wondering why. People glamorize famous people. But imagine if you made a lot of noise in public when you were a kid. What did your parents say? Or what do people say? Shh, don't grab attention. It's bad to grab attention. That's a subconscious signal we've been getting since we were a child. Anytime you try to grab attention in public, your parents, your society stopped you, and that instilled a fear in you that, hey, anytime I go out there and try to get attention while speaking in public, it's something to be scared of. And it's such a big subconscious mapping. So one of the biggest things initially is to breaking that belief system. Most people fear communication because they only consider the downsides of if something goes wrong. If I'll lose my reputation, I'll have rejection. They never consider the opportunity cost. And once you start considering the opportunity cost, let's say you're a businessman and you realize, whoa, if I communicate to 1,000 people, I can expand my business much more. Once you put that in scale, you automatically push yourself towards going outside your comfort zone. Nobody has to come and teach you. Right? So the big thing I would say in this short time that we have is start comparing the opportunity cost of not communicating in public, not talking to somebody, whether it's a girl, you know, you'll miss a beautiful girl on a date. So you got to start considering the opportunity cost of not communicating. And I think that'll help you make a better decision when deciding if you want to communicate or not.
Obviously, guys, communication is a big, broad topic, and it will take us years to sit and discuss things specifically for everyone right here. But again, guys, these information are insightful, and it's a really good starter to begin your journey in communication and being able to communicate. Like, literally, if you guys go out there and try it with a girl, do let us know how the results come on so we can actually judge you on that, right? Naren, that's actually amazing, and it's a lovely way to really get us on the board. Like now, I'm thinking, wow. So there's always an opportunity, and if I don't take that, I'm losing on it, and that's a good way of thinking about it because you're always pushing it to the positivity side. So what was that thing that kind of pushed you in the beginning? So were you a shy person as a child? Because I'm assuming you came from a society that did tell you to shush, shush, shush every time you were a child. So
Correct.
what kind of told you, hey, I don't want to stop anymore. I want to get out. There's an opportunity. I want to take it. What was that like changing moment in your personality or in your character that made you push towards the communicative part?
What a fantastic question, BB. That's insightful. So there have been instances, but one major moment was me traveling to the US, going to college, and I was the only Indian. You see, Indians are everywhere. Like they say, they're cockroaches on the map. You know, we got Indians everywhere. Just
True.
kidding. No offense to Indians and my fellow brothers and sisters. But the thing is, I went to a college where there were no other Indians, almost no other Indians, which meant that I had to communicate with other people and communicate with people from different countries and different cultures. So it's almost like I pushed myself into being in a zone where I had to thrive. And when you're in a place where you don't know the people, your cultural habits are very different, and the interactions are very different, you got to learn how to communicate to survive and thrive in that situation, right? Because if you want to have a good experience, you got to understand and learn, make connections. And that pushed me towards becoming a better communicator and learning, okay, what works? How can I connect with people? How can I talk to people? So I would say that's one big pivotal moment. So it's not necessarily that you got to switch countries, but the city. If you go to college in a different city, I think that pushes you outside your comfort zone, and you are pushed to learn how to communicate better, because it's a matter of thriving now, and it's a matter of forming new connections. That was a big key moment for me.
That's lovely. Guys, by the way, fun fact about Naren. Naren traveled to a lot of countries. I'm not sure if it's like, is it more than 30, Naren? More than 30 countries right now?
About 30 countries so far. About
Yes.
30 countries.
So he's a traveler, you know, and I've been keeping up, like keeping track of where he's been going. He's been communicating to a lot of people. He's an adventurous guy. Trust me. Like when I met him in Australia, he's always wanted to do everything. He even, guys, this guy has like, oh my, he makes friends with everyone. He's very communicative. He sits and like he can sit with anyone for like 5 minutes, and you can already know a lot about him. He can already share a lot about him. Like the way his positive vibe is always bringing people together. I kind of like that about him, and this is why I actually contacted him, and like the reason why I've been in touch with him for this past 2 years and keeping up with his content. It's because he always leaves that friendly vibe, like, oh, he's a lovely guy. You want to talk to him. You want to know more about him, and he's literally friendly to anyone. I don't think there is a time where you like insulted anyone, or you're a nice person. You're a nice character in general, and. So a couple of questions. How did you notice people communicate in these different countries? So like you've been to several cultures and several people of like regions and people with different languages. How was it like communicating with every region, and was it different, or was it like the same but just different languages? What was the experience like?
That's superb. That's a superb question. If I were to bifurcate like in two big zones, I would say, there's westernized cultures in the world, and then there are more like community easternized cultures in the world. And this is how I would differentiate how people in different cultures communicate in different ways. So we know the westernized cultures are more individualistic. Nothing is right or wrong, but that's the nature of it. In individualistic cultures, people communicate more directly, more transparently. There's a lot of transparency in the words. So what you say matters a lot. People are more sensitive to the individual words that you say. In easternized cultures, where you are in Dubai, probably in India, in other more eastern and non-westernized cultures, community living is a big thing, and community is a big thing. So these are more collectivist cultures. So when you're communicating, you got to consider a lot about the collectivism in the culture. So for example, someone has to keep a lot in mind when communicating with a group of friends, because you're in an Eastern culture or a non-Western culture versus you're in a Western culture. This would be a good example. In a Western culture, let's say I open a bag of chips and I want to eat, right? And I'm around 4 or 5 people. I do not need to communicate and say, hey, do you want this with me? I don't need to offer it, because it's understood that if somebody wants it, they'll ask it. It's transparent. But in an Eastern or non-Western culture, if you open up a snack, let's say a bag of chips, I'm sure you can relate, and you have friends around you, there's no way you can not offer. And when a friend says no one time, you probably got to say again, hey, are you sure? right? So you got to really take the community and keep community in mind, because just words don't have meaning. There's not equal transparency. You got to dig deeper into how the person is actually reacting. So you have to really consider the context much more rather than just words. So I would say this is how I would differentiate in these two cultures. Do you agree? Can you relate to my example?
I so agree. In fact, we had this little funny joke where in school, if someone opens a pack of gum, it's gone completely because he has to offer it to everyone, right? So what I used to do is I would always buy 2 packs of gum and then offer one to everyone. I keep one hidden just for me. It is so true. And my parents would always be like, if you buy chips, buy for your brothers, buy for your family. I'm like, why? It's like, I want to buy it for me. But I do agree. Yes, that is very accurate actually. And it's amazing how you notice these things. I mean, everyone in both Western and Eastern can relate to what you just said. But again, it takes a brain to actually notice these things, and being able to transform them from a way to like just noticing them and to a way to communicate better to a person and really understanding that person's character, culture, and being able to use that in your advantage to build a relationship or like let's say a successful bond with them, right?
Correct.
Like basically we know who you are and what you do. How can we learn more about you? So like what are the best places where we can get in touch with you? Like if someone wants, let's say, training sessions about communication or wants to get to know more about you, what's the best way to find you and get to you? And tell us more about you in general.
I think social media is amazing. I'm on almost all platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. So if anybody wants to get in touch, they can easily DM me. Me or my team will definitely respond and get back to you. We try to miss 0 messages and communicate back for sure. Other than that, I'm also on TikTok.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing TikTok content now too, mini TikTok content. So almost all social media channels that you can think of. This is Naren AG. You can find me and get tuned in with the content.
And have you ever thought about like taking this a little more professional into like academies and stuff? Maybe become a professor, or have you ever had this idea, or have you considered it?
I have thought about it, and I know I do not want to go into academia and the professor route, because the thing is, it gets too textbooky. You know, if anything, I would love to have like 50 people over, and we actually do stuff on stage, and we challenge people right there, rather than learn about something for 4 years and never apply it and go away just to show that we have a degree and, oh, look, I studied communication, but you never actually did it. So academia is not like, I respect it. I went to college, but it's not something I'm too hype about for this. And I think it's such a doer sport. It's not a spectator sport. It's not like engineering where you really got to know the technicals. So I have not considered that route. The second thing is I'm an entrepreneur. So this is something I do on the side. So for me, that's a big focus time. Let's see how it goes. Right now, I don't have any conclusions, but yeah, we're just doing and try to spread the message out because it's something I love.
Nice. And a follow-up question to my first one is, have you thought about writing a book maybe? So let's say you don't have enough time for the academia, but have you maybe thought if you put like 2 hours a day just writing a book and then being able to transform all your knowledge or all your expertise into a book that people can buy and read? Have you ever thought about that?
Actually, this is the first time I'm saying it out publicly. Yes, I have considered that. I'm not saying that I am working on it right now, but I have considered that. But I really want to come up with some really unique stuff. I don't want to do a copy paste, you know. So there are some really personal ideas that I have culminated. But let's see how it works together, and if I can find a good jigsaw puzzle, then I would definitely work on releasing a book.
And you should. And I think what would be really cool is you can release that book in several languages. So like have it translated and stuff. That would be really cool. Because then like the whole communication part is like, you know, in circulation, and it would be really cool. That's actually interesting.
Thanks for that suggestion. I love it. I love that.
Go for it, man. And
if I release it in Arabic, you got to do the proofreading for me.
100%. And I'll be the first to buy it. So I have to get like a special copy before it's even out.
Hey, you get a free copy. You don't have to buy it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right. So guys, another thing about Naren is he's really in touch with nature and with spirituality in general. This guy left our campus in Australia for like around 10 days to 2 weeks to do some self-realization, self-motivation camp or some sort of like you go there and you're literally away from all connectivity. You don't talk to anyone. You're just there meditating, getting into it. Tell us more about that, Naren, and how that helped you in general with the whole character that you have. And I've seen a post about you also today morning. You in a temple, literally, I think you were meditating and you were mentioning how important it was. So tell us more about that side of you and how it really affected your life.
So, that's thanks for that question, BB. This is a personal side of me that I don't publicly speak much about. So I'm glad to share this with you and your viewers. See, we're called human beings. Human beings. That means we know how to be. But I realize that most times we are human doings. We're just doing, hardly being. So meditation for me is that time when I'm actually being a human being rather than a human doing. And for me, that's really powerful. The meditation retreat you talked about, yes, I have done those retreats where it's a 10-day silence. It's something that you go in there and they have a campus and then you're cut off from the external world. There's no TV, no newspaper, no music, no pen, no paper. It's total silence of the body and the mind. By that I mean no newspaper, no reading, no watching. At the same time, no talking, no seeing anybody and smiling. You try to look at the floor and do your thing. It's a time of real self-reflection for 10 days. And I felt like, we're always so focused on the external. 10 days is nothing to take time out and focus on the internal. And it's an investment. So I really say it's an investment for the life within me, as opposed to we're usually investing in all the things, life externally. I want to buy a guitar and I need to earn money, etc., etc. But meditation for me, every day, even when I do it, is that time when I'm investing in the life within me, and I'm trying to be the human being rather than the human doing.
That's again, like, the way you look at things is pretty impressive. Like, I feel like I should go now and like do all my research again. Like, what is it like to be a like the way I think it's really amazing how the way you look at things and your perspective on certain topics. I think there's a lot to learn, and some people in the chat are actually sending you a lot of love, by the way. And we have a question which I'll ask you later. Like, yeah, these guys are like loving you. One of them even said you look cute. I think he was talking to you, obviously. So really, like, they're actually very interested in what you're saying, and I really like that. Moving on into your self-realization part, do you think it's important that people are like should at least take some time reflective, and how often because these days yoga camps and all the meditation stuff are like a hype, right? And a lot of businesses are kind of just doing it for the money, doing it just for the trendy stuff. So what's the right way to do it, per se, if there is a right way, or what's like the encouraged way? Because I don't want to put people in a way like, oh, just do yoga, go stretch for a couple of hours, think about it, breathe, done, come pay us like $200 for this hour, we're good, we taught you how to meditate, your life is better. I mean, it's kind of obvious that the hype is really going in the wrong way, and that shouldn't be happening, right? So what do you think is the right encouragement to do that,
That's a superb question, BB. Yes, it's becoming very commercialized, etc. And unfortunately, it's taking forms. This is my perspective again. It's taking forms that are very weird. People are trying to do beer yoga or goat yoga, and that stuff can be really dangerous, actually. Because I mean, beer is something that takes you away from consciousness. Nothing against beer. I don't consume alcohol, but anyways, I don't have a judgment around it. But it's a fact. Beer, alcohol takes you away from consciousness. Yoga is something that you're trying to get to consciousness. How do you get those two together? I don't understand. Anyways, about yoga. See, the word yoga in Sanskrit means union, literally union. If you ask somebody who's deeper into Sanskrit texts, they would say it means the union of the individual with the cosmos. Many other cultures say it in a different way, but that's the union we're talking about. The physical yoga is just one aspect of yoga, which is called Hatha yoga. Mm-hmm. But that is not yoga. Most people are thinking that just stretching in untwistable ways is yoga. That's one form of yoga, and that's preparing your body to be able to sit and pay attention to yourself. So yes, it's taking crazy forms. How to know if it's good or not? Number one thing is, I would say you really got to check the source. I mean, when you're trying to do something with your internal, something that's powerful, something that can transform you, you really got to do it from the correct source. Because if you do it from all kinds of sources, it'll be messy. When we consume a product, we check who manufactured it. We don't go just anywhere here and there and pick out any manufacturer, because if the manufacturer is not good, you probably don't want to put that stuff in your body. You don't
True.
want it in your life. Same thing with yoga. Same thing with martial arts, or workout. If you start doing workouts carelessly, you will hurt your body. You will injure yourself. If you start doing martial arts from any Tom, Dick, Harry on the street, you will injure yourself. So it's really important to see where the source is. And if you most probably, if you find a source that's traditional and that is genuine, then it's okay. Or if there's a teacher, who have they learned it from? Because it's really important where the source is of that teaching. Or is it just some weekend yoga tutor course that somebody has gotten certified with?
Really interesting. And wow, like, I mean, one of the people on the chat did ask this question, so how is yoga different than stretching? And you literally just answered his question. That's really interesting. And now I want to move back to the main topic, which is communication. So the whole quarantine that's been going on and the lockdowns across the world because of COVID, obviously, do you think that was affecting the communication in general, or do you think people were just finding excuses not to communicate? Because from what I know is you are able to communicate your word even across social medias and without being there physically, and I'm obviously sure you can do it physically. Do you think that like the whole quarantine was actually affecting it to some extent, or is it's just complete normal, people were just like finding excuses not to communicate better?
Correct. That's a great question. See, the thing is, a lot of nature, the medium of communication changed. So if we met physically, we met on a video call. Like in my business, we were all doing a bunch of video calls. So it's not that communication avenues weren't there, because we were very lucky when COVID happened that we have the internet, we have the modern world, and we have telecommunication. Mm-hmm. So it's really fantastic that the COVID happened in this time, and it's not that communication would be hampered. The medium of communication changed. I think where communication was hampered mainly was in romantic relationships, because you need that physical proximity, or in family relationships, so that way's communication was hampered, because physical proximity, it has a big value. People, there's science to prove that people love hugs, people love being close to their loved ones. So in that ways, it could affect the mental health of somebody if they don't receive that communication, that love from their closed ones. But other than that, I think the internet saved a lot of people, because otherwise they would go crazy that they were able to talk to their friends. In many instances, I saw that people enhance their relationships, because with normal due course, they're always so busy, they hardly communicate deeply with people. But now that you have time and now you have video call, you're calling those friends, you're speaking to them, you're talking to your family more, you're playing games with your family more, and communicating deeper. So I would say, long story short, it's really what you made out of it. Yes, there might be restrictions to physical communication, but the medium of communication changed. I think still the avenues for communication were very much open, and so in most places that have the internet and modern telecommunication.
That's really cool. Guys, because he said that, I want you all to go to his latest Instagram post and tell him, hug me. Yeah, I like literally just go spam him comments, tell him to hug you, guys. This is why we want to show him how physical interactions are very important. So, Naren, what recently have you been noticing about people's communication? Like, let's put it this way. People have been communicating. What are the, let's say, 3 biggest mistakes that people are doing in communication that has been reducing the amount of, let's say, meaningful conversations going on, or meaningful communication in general? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Yeah, that's a superb question. So I think that I was speaking to actually a PhD in communication, a professor of mine, and I would like to borrow her point here. And she talked about how in the new age of social media, we have a lot of width in communication. That means we're talking to so many people, but the depth is what's missing. The depth is what's missing. And that's fine, I think. But what's not fine is not having those few people that you really communicate and go deep with. Because we have 5 best friends, We don't go deep with one. And I think that's one big mistake. By deep, I mean really sharing how you feel and exchanging emotionally, not informationally. So that's one big mistake. Exchanging only information, not emotion. I hope you get what I mean. The second thing is either giving too much or taking too much. So there's some people who make this mistake of just speaking and never hearing the other person out. You know, they never hear the other person out. They say all their heart problems, etc. And whenever the other person says the problem, they say, "Yeah, I hope you're fine. I hope you get fine." You know, so speaking too much. The other extreme is hearing too much and never opening up. So there are people who will hear all your problems, hear everything, but they will never tell you your secrets. They want to know your secrets. They're friends. There's friendships like this. But what happens is when you don't open up, it slowly shows the other person that you don't trust them. You just want them to trust you. So I think these are big mistakes that we're making. That either speaking too much or hearing too much, not playing a ping pong game. Communication should be a co-creation. You know, you got to play ping pong. You know, 50% of the ball that time, 50% of the ball this time, and you got to try and keep that balance. Otherwise, the seesaw will tumble too much, and it won't be an equilibrium. And by that I mean sharing your emotion, sharing your heart, not just information.
Interesting topic, and I like the resemblance of the ping pong towards communication. I think it's very true, and sometimes you could be pushing a little further, but then you have to balance it and get it back to the same way it was. Interesting. So my follow-up question is, imagine everyone's communicating, right? And I'm finding it hard to kind of put the question out there, but like, what would it be like if everyone's communicating in a better, like, give me like, imagine a world where people are communicating perfectly. I know that's an imaginary world and it's not the ideal, but think of it this way: how is the information going to be transferred, and how is it going to be shared upon people in general?
If the world we had better communicators everywhere, we would be saving a lot of time. Number one, we'd be saving a lot of time because you will not waste time on follow-up. See, being in business, I know half the time the business managers and entrepreneurs, their time is wasted on following up. Instructions that have already been given, but the people have forgotten or not have communicated ahead of them. So follow-up and time wastage will stop if people are better communicators. Number two thing is, you would need less emails, less texts. See, the thing is, this is what happens in the business world, and I'm sure you've seen in other places. I have communicated to you something. I want to make sure that you communicated to somebody else, so I want you to reply and acknowledge the email. But if you just did that, if I could trust you to just be a great communicator and tell that to the other person, I would not need that email. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of resources. The number three is, yes, we would save resources. Let's say there's an architect and they're building something. They tell their engineer, hey, this has to be this at this angle. The engineer doesn't grab this right, or the architect doesn't say it properly. There's a miscommunication. You build that stuff. You got to break that down and build it again. And I bet you that stuff is happening all around. This is just one example. So we would save time, we would save energy, and we would save resources in a better world. And that's why I'm so passionate about this. Because if we can create better communicators around the world, we're literally helping humanity take forward steps much easier.
That's amazing. So you said the business side. Keep going with the emotional side as well. So tell us more. What would be losing if we go to the emotional side as well? So like with families and friends.
Oh,
like just
emotional side.
I think a lot of people make mistakes, especially boyfriends to girlfriends. Just communicate it. They say anything, and those girls like go insane. So like move on to that part as well. I'm interested to hear more.
So emotional side. If we were better communicators, we would have better relationships. Period. Second, we would be happier, because there was a TED talk and they surveyed so many people about what makes you the happiest in life. Most of them said relationships. Good relationships make you happy in life. Not money, not a car, not a bungalow. And you can test this when anybody's on their deathbed and you ask them, hey, do you want more money? Do you want more food? Do you want more bungalow? Do you want more sleep? Almost all of them say, no, I want to be with my loved ones. I want to be with my dear ones. So this is a proof that relationships overall trump the amount of happiness you get than anything else. And if you are a better communicator, your relationships would be much better. You know why? Number one is that you would be able to take in criticism that you were given.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take in criticism and we don't try to modify ourselves. The second thing is you would be able to convey how you really feel within yourself to the other person. Truthfully. Most relationships suffer because one or the other person is not truthful. And I really call truth in a relationship as manure for the plants. So you see, manure does not smell good. It doesn't look anything like a fruit. It's kind of dirty to handle. But only when you put it in the roots of a plant, the plant grows well and brings beautiful fruits. And that's what truth is. When you put truth into a relationship and you invest, it can be dirty, it might smell, it might be tough to handle, but when you put it in, it helps build a beautiful relationship, a beautiful plant, because relationships are very living things. And when you're a great communicator, you know what manure to put, how to put the manure, and how to make sure to keep that relationship live and willing. Lastly, if you want to end a relationship and it's time for both, sometimes that can happen, whether it's romantic, whether it's a friendship, you know how to do that as well. And you save yourself and the other person emotional cost. And in the end, you both are happy. So that's how it affects relationships, being a better communicator.
Wow. Like, guys, this is deep words. I'm already like thinking way ahead. Like, oh my God. Wow, Naren. Like, I'm like, I don't think you guys can see this, but like, I'm kind of shocked about all these lovely, insightful things that I've been hearing. Wow. Like, it is a good reflective point to be thinking about. And, I mean, we all hope to have that kind of world one day where businesses are not delayed, relationships are doing well. And I agree with the part that you said about the deathbed. In fact, just recently, because of COVID, a lot of people weren't looking for money, weren't looking for anything. They were just looking for people to talk to and like good relationships and the communication with others. So I really can tell and can confirm that communication is, in fact, one of let's say essentials for life, to be able to adapt and grow as humans. Because our race, if we don't keep growing, we will never actually reach, because we as humans are a weak species compared to like physical features
Correct.
or like extra powerful stuff like animals and other species. But honestly, if we can communicate better, we can adapt and grow better, and I think that's really, really important.
I just want to add to that, Bibi. What a great point you mentioned. There's a book by Yuval Noah Harari, a famous historian, you might have heard of him, called Sapiens. And in that book, he talks about how when we were evolving from apes, there were 5 strands of our ancestors, 5 strands, after which only one were Homo sapiens, the current human beings that are. Out of these 5 strands, 4 are extinct. We don't even know them. The only strand of our ancestor that are living are the Homo sapiens, of what we are. And the reason Homo sapiens were able to live was because of their ability to communicate and form language. So only because, like you said, we are weak in terms of our physical capability than a lion, a bear, even a snake can kill us anytime, a gang of snakes. But the reason why we are kind of ruling the world in that way, if you allow me to say that, is that we have this ability to communicate and collaborate with each other through our communication. And you will know Harari touches upon that in his book. He's a famous Oxford historian. So, to your point.
Another good reference for you guys. Please do make sure to read that book, and I think it will keep you busy until Naren comes out with his own book, you guys. So definitely do look forward for that. Naren, I think I'll try to end this with a final question, and that question is, what about limits in a communication? So I believe. So a lot of countries might be very supportive of freedom of speech, but sometimes that much freedom can lead to problems as well. What do you think are limits we should let's say maintain or put in terms of communication? When do we realize that we are kind of insulting to someone? When do we realize that we need to stop talking about something? Freedom of speech is great, but at the same time we should keep in mind that we should be considerate of others as well, and of people who are we talking to. Sometimes a person just doesn't want to hear you for now. Like, maybe you're a great speaker, but like this is not the time to be speaking. Like again, and I might really think you believe in this as well, because disconnecting from people at times is very important, and you've been doing that. And sometimes silence is as important as talking as well. And in communication, you should spend enough times in silence, enough times in speaking, enough times in listening. So in general, tell us more about the limits that we should be putting in communication and things we have to be aware while we're communicating with others. And I think that would be a good end question for you.
That's a superb question, and that's a tough question to answer. So I'll take it in 2-3 parts. The funny thing is, by the way, if you take the letters in the word silent, SILENT, and rearrange them, it becomes listen, LISTEN.
Interesting. Never knew that.
Yeah, it's a very interesting take. So it's half of communication is actually being silent. You're right. It's about listening. See, like if I'm talking while you're asking me the question, I would not even know what to talk, and I would talk gibberish. So it's very important to employ listening. Most people want to be understood, but they never seek to understand, and that's a big cardinal mistake in communication. Coming to your question specifically, there's freedom of speech. How do we know when to stop? How do we know when to stop talking? When to be appropriate? When are we going overboard? There's a simple rule of thumb I follow, and I'm talking about like personal, interpersonal communication here. You are allowed only to lecture as much you have invested in the relationship. If I'm talking to you personally. So let's say I meet you on the street and I start lecturing you about maybe how your beard is a little much and you should change your glasses, etc. You'll be like, who are you, Naren? Come on. Like, I don't know. You don't even know my name if you met me on the street. I don't have the right to lecture to you. Why? Because I have not invested much in the relationship with you. I've not invested in the trust. Now, let's say we are friends. Maybe I can talk to you about, hey, baby, other glasses would look better because we have invested that much in our relationship. I've invested the time. But I can't be telling you stuff that your dad tells you or your mom tells you, right? Why? The difference is the amount of time you've invested in the relationship and the trust building. So a simple rule of thumb on how to consider how far to go with Bibi or how far shall I go with another friend is how much have I invested in the relationship. Because the thing is, you might be well-intentioned, but if you've not invested in the relationship, the other person will not be receiving your request because they're not open, because you've not invested that much. You don't have the right to lecture. So in that way, that's a good rule of thumb to know when to stop, to evaluate, okay, how much have I invested in the relationship? Freedom of speech. This is my personal take again. Freedom of speech is a power, and with great power comes what?
Great responsibility.
Great responsibility. And I think that's something one must use responsibly. I mean, yes, freedom of speech is great, but can I go around saying, threatening someone's family or someone's life? That's freedom of speech. But can I do that? That's the question we got to answer. And I don't know what the sweet spot is and how can governments regulate it, because it gets really tricky when you start punishing something. Yes, threatening is punishing, but if somebody, let's say, says something that we consider racist, can the government punish that? Or is just societally people don't like it? That comes into the gray area, and I would not comment on that because there's legal experts for that. But there's definitely a range, and I think we should operate within that range. There's a range where you can go extreme with your freedom of speech, but also there is a range of political correctness that can get too irritating. Sometimes, and that does not allow you to speak your heart and restricts you, which we know. Like, for example, I don't want to name countries, but we know some countries, the north and the south part, etc. So yes, I think there's a range between political correctness and freedom of speech. I tend a little more towards the freedom of speech, but I don't want to go to the extreme either. I don't tend more towards the political correctness sphere because I think it really restricts on what you want to say. But with great power comes great responsibility, and I think that's a good rule of thumb.
So, guys, again, feel free to say what you want, but also be considerate of others. I think Naren might agree with this statement as well. If you have good intentions most of the time, you would be knowing what to do. Like, the reason why you want to tell this guy his beard is different or is not good looking is because maybe you didn't like it, or maybe you thought it was weird. So the intention might coming from a good heart, but it might not be for a good reason, right? But if you kind of intend things in a well manner, and I'm pretty sure if you went to this person and you told him, hey bro, I think your beard looks great if you did this, even the word you say might give him another way to
Yes.
receive it. So keep in mind that if you have really good intentions and you want to build something good out of your communicative skills, I think most of the time, I don't want to like make it an absolute rule, but most of the time you would be communicating well. At the same time, make sure that the person is receiving. There's nothing wrong with listening. I've heard throughout my life billions of people telling me to listen. You have one mouth, two ears, blah, 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 all those amazing statements. And it's really, really important to be as communicative in listening than as much as speaking as well. Guys, we're coming to an end. If you guys have questions, please do ask them before we end. Otherwise, I really want to thank Naren for being here. He's a great guy, and I'm really, really happy to hear all those amazing things. Like, I learned a couple of new things. I actually never knew about this. Like, silent and listen are the same letters. So, like, great details today, and I really cannot wait to read his book in general. And guys, please do go follow him. He's a great guy, great things. You will love Monday mornings with him, guys. It's great, especially like when you're going to work early in the morning. Just it's like a 30 minutes to 1 hour video, and it's great because you're watching it while you're driving or something. Drive safe, by the way. So and then you learn more things, and it gives you a good motivation for the day and for the week. So Naren, please let us know how you feel, any feedback, any comments, and if there's questions, I'll ask them to you as soon as they get it. Otherwise, thank you. Do you want to say anything just for the fans and stuff?
Bibi, it was so cool to be here, interact with you, and I really think we're so lucky to be living in the 21st century because we can connect with people around the world and communicate so easily. Like you and I, you're out there in the UAE near Dubai and Al Ain. I'm here in Kolkata, India, and we have this chance to talk together to so many people viewing. And to the viewers who tune in and who are going to watch this, thanks for communicating in your own way, tuning in. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. If you guys have any questions, if you guys want to say anything, if you guys didn't like something that I said, please DM me, and that'll be great feedback for me. Lastly, I love what you said. Intention matters the most. Intention matters the most. It trumps on. Thank you so much, Bibi, for having me here.
All right, guys, thank you all for being here. We don't have any questions, Naren, so again, thank you so much. Guys, this is the Be Positive Show. Looking forward to seeing you in the future episodes. Please do follow me on Twitch. Please go follow Naren on his social medias. Thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the next episode. Take care and have a good day. Bye.